Hello everybody, I'm Rowan6 with Rowan6 Entertainment, and welcome to a new series, a audiobook series of my fanfiction, The Beaters of SAO. The background art for this fanfiction is created by me. If you're interested in me doing art commissions for you, the link to my business Discord is down below. There's also a link to my community Discord, as well as the fanfiction link. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
Chapter 4. Rumi was extremely antsy as she waited for her mate in the private lounge. Sleeping alone without Izuku by her side was practically torture. Due to her quirk, she had animalistic instincts that hadn't been sated for over 2 weeks. She's lucky she is nowhere close to being in heat, otherwise, it would have been twice as bad. It also didn't help that Emi looked like shit, and she knew that once Izuku laid eyes on the two of them, it was going to hurt him. She did not know how that Madman, Kayaba, made that world so realistic. To the point where the individual scent of a person was extremely accurate. Hell, he even thought about the instinctual needs of animal quirk users. Although she has to admit that if it wasn't for that madman's attention to detail, she would have gone insane within those 2 years in SAO. She also knew that the comforting hand Emi placed on her, as well as her scent that radiated safety and comfort, like a warm blanket, would not have been nearly as effective in calming her down if she had not been exposed to the woman's scent already. Taking a deep breath, Rumi took a minute to calm herself as she basked in the calming motherly scent of Emi. She honestly did not know what she would have done if this woman hadn't been with her. Well, that was a lie. She knew she would probably be out of this chair and hunting down Izuku until she either found him or collapsed from exhaustion. Shaking her head from those thoughts, she decided to distract herself by asking Emi a question that had been bugging her. "So did you hear anything from Andrew?" Rumi asked curiously. Andrew was able to release himself from the hospital due to his quirk, perfect body. That lucky bastard was practically in perfect shape even after being in a vegetative state for 2 years. Without any legal way of holding him, the heroes and law enforcement were forced to allow him to discharge himself from the hospital. The only person he had contact with while outside the hospital was Emi. "Yeah, I did. I asked him to clear out Izuku's apartment and bring his stuff over to my house," Emi said, which had the effect of shocking Rumi. "Why did you do that? You know how sentimental Izuku is about that apartment?" Rumi asked, shocked. "The second I woke up from that virtual hell that we were in, I asked my husband to check in on Izuku's previous living situation. The next day I found out that the guy who runs the apartment complex that Izuku lives in is going to start selling his stuff away. Luckily, my husband was able to stop it, but the apartment manager insisted on us moving his stuff out. So that's exactly what we did," Emi said, annoyed. She did not like how they were just going to sell off his stuff like that. She also did not mention the choice words that she heard they used to describe Izuku. The bastards were lucky that she was stuck in the hospital. At least she can be satisfied with the knowledge that Andrew will get the pound of flesh that she deserves for her. Wait, I thought it was being paid by his auntie. Where the fuck was she in all this? Rumi asks, annoyed. She swears that if the woman that Izuku put so much trust in stabbed him in the back, she would personally tear her a new cunt. Apparently, she's the reason why they didn't sell it off as soon as he was committed to the hospital. The woman tried for 2 years to maintain a hold on that apartment and even offered to pay double just to keep the lease. She even brought him to court when she found out he planned on selling Izuku's stuff. but eventually, the guy won the case and was about to sell the stuff off and rent out the apartment again. But luckily, Izuku woke up, and I managed to take custody of his objects thanks to me using my emergency foster license to take him into my custody. When she found out what I did and that Izuku was awake, she practically demanded to see me as well as Izuku, especially Izuku. Apparently, she's been denied seeing him for the past 2 years due to the security. And now that he's awake, she wants to make sure he is okay. Emi said, which seems to mollify Rumi. But before either of them can ask any other question, the door to their private lounge opened. There sat Izuku, her mate, in a wheelchair being pushed by Dr. Hikari. Rumi could not stand seeing him in that state, all decrepit looking, and shit, she would not cry, she's Miruko, the warrior rabbit and a proud member of the Beaters for crying out loud. She survived 74 floors of hell beside her mate, so she needed to be strong. She was so caught up in her emotional turmoil that she wasn't expecting Izuku's gentle hug. Even though she wasn't expecting it, the scent of her mate, as well as the hug, made her practically melt into his arms. After Izuku gave the doctor a pleading look, the doctor got the message and left the room. When she was out of sight, Rumi cried into the crook of Izuku's neck. The crying lasted a good couple of minutes. Then Izuku and Rumi just cuddled into each other after the two moved onto the sofa in the lounge. Which made Izuku's legs ache, but he did not care. All he cared about was comforting Rumi. It's been obvious that she's been in distress due to a lack of contact with him. So he let her take what she needed from him as he comforted her. After a good couple of minutes of cuddling, Rumi was calm enough for Izuku to start asking some questions. So, what did I miss? Izuku said as he looked towards Emi. Besides you being evicted from your home and your aunt wanting to see you, nothing much. Emi said, frowning. Well, as I told you a month ago, I was most likely going to be homeless once I woke up. Did the bastard who ran the apartment sell my stuff off, or did my aunt somehow get a hold of it before I was kicked out? Actually, your aunt fought tooth and nail to maintain hold of your apartment. If we hadn't woken up just in time, he would have started selling your stuff off. Andrew is moving your stuff to my place as we speak. Emi said with a smile. The three remained silent for a bit after that until Rumi broke it. Okay, are we going to ignore what happened before we woke up and have any of you check if it was true? Because I was waiting on you guys to check myself. Rumi asked in a whisper, it was only loud enough for the two to hear and not the cameras in the room. No, I haven't, I am kind of afraid to. Especially if what he told us is true. Izuku said in a whisper as he thought back on what happened. Flashback. Izuku stood there in the sea of clouds as he processed the previous events. Oh, shit, he died. His mom was going to kill him. Speaking of which, why is he not dead yet? Looking around, he saw a respawn timer counting down from 2 minutes. Thinking back to that revival item from the Christmas event, it made sense. The nerve gear couldn't kill you instantly for that revival item to work. So when that timer ran out, that was it. He was going to die, at least he took that bastard with high dash. His thoughts were cut off by a white, familiar missile smashing into his chest and knocking him onto the ground. Groaning, he looked down and saw Rumi. You fucking idiot, you fucking idiot, how could you accept such a fight? How could you? You couldn't even stay alive after I took that blow for you. You idiot, You idiot, how do you think I feel seeing you here? Rumi babbled out through her sobs. Then Izuku hugged her and started crying as well. The two were knocked out of it pretty quickly, though, by a voice that the two recognized. Well, he took me out as well, so be proud, I guess. Akihiko Kayaba said awkwardly. What the fuck do you want? Are you here to gloat or something? Rumi said angrily as she jumped to her feet into a battle stance. Nope, I'm here to fulfill my end of the deal. But before that, we need to talk. Akihiko Kayaba said as he tapped on a panel that appeared in front of him, stopping the respawn timer. After another tap, Emi appeared along with Melissa and Kana Tsutsum. The three, seeing where they were, went on guard. But they realized that they didn't have any of their weapons, but that didn't stop them from taking a fighting stance anyway. Hold it, I'm just here to talk. Plus, you can't really do anything to me here. I disabled PvP as well as erected a barrier around myself just in case you tried to be creative. Akihiko Kayaba said calmly as he put his hands in his lab coat pockets. But nobody let up on their guard in the slightest. The stare down lasted for a few seconds before Akihiko Kayaba spoke up. Okay, well, I don't have all day, so I'm just going to say what I need to say. Proud members of the Beaters, I would like to congratulate you on completing Sword Art Online as well as passing my test. As I promised, I will be shutting down SAO, and all the players will be released from the game. But I think you should know the real reason why I did all this. Have any of you heard of a man called All for One? Akihiko Kayaba asked as Kana and Emi tensed up a bit at the name. Seeing it, he continued. I see, so you have heard of him. That makes it easier then. But I think I should give the backstory to the people not in the know. All for One is a villain who runs the underworld from the shadows. He's also All Might's nemesis. All for One, who is named after his quirk, has the power to take and give quirks. It is why he is known as the Quirk Thief and the King of the Underworld. Akihiko Kayaba said before being interrupted by Rumi. Get to the point already. Rumi growled out angrily. Akihiko Kayaba was undeterred and unfazed at her outburst as he responded. I was getting to it, so be patient. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, 4 years ago, All for One and All Might battled it out. I was a bystander caught in their crossfire, so I hid. At the end of the fight, All for One tore a hole straight through All Might and severely wounded him, but not before All Might crushed his face in with his fist. This got a gasp out of everybody present as everybody's face went pale, but he was undeterred as he continued. As All Might stumble away bleeding out, so too did All for One. But the difference between the two was that All for One could heal his wounds, as I saw his face start to regenerate before leaving through a portal. I was shocked and stunned, and it was at that moment that I realized that he might probably not survive his wounds, and even if he did, he could not face that monster again with any hope of winning. So I took the blood of All for One and All Might that was splattered on the ground because of their battle, and studied it. A month later, I made a breakthrough. I figured out how to create an artificial quirk and how to transfer it through the nerve gear. My original plan was to monitor players as they played through SAO, but 6 months before it launched, I figured out I had an inoperable brain tumor. Knowing that I had very little time left, I knew I needed to narrow down the variables, and the only way to do that was to lock down SAO. Then put everybody into a high-stress environment and remove the weak links. Luckily, it worked, and I didn't just find one, I found 5. 5 people who met my criteria, 5 people who have the determination and willpower to take down that monster that All Might couldn't. And those 5 people are you. Now, before you say anything, I need to explain how it's going to work. The quirk is a reality warper of sorts. It allows you to make SAO a part of reality itself. It does this by giving you all the skills as well as the menu that you had in SAO. There are many other features that you have to figure out yourself. Since I'm running on borrowed time here myself, in fact, I think I'm already dead. Oh well, I did my job, and it's now your turn, so goodbye and good luck. Akihiko Kayaba said with a slight smile on his face before he disappeared. Flashback end. Yeah, I guess the prospect of fighting an enemy that could defeat All Might with a power granted to you by a madman would be pretty scary. That's why I think we should wait for my husband to show up. He's also bringing Nizu along. Apparently, the rat found out about our little group and the kid who ended the game. Emi said in a whisper, but with obvious worry in her voice. But then a thought struck Rumi, and she spoke up. Wait, what are we going to do about Kana and Melissa? I know Melissa's probably okay on Island, but Kana is still under those assholes' thumb. We promised her that we would get her out of there. Rumi said, still whispering but with obvious worry in her voice. Don't worry, Rumi. My husband has already told me that Kana is still in the hospital here. He's been running interference against the Hero Commission along with the rest of the underground community. So we have time to think of a plan to get her out of there. Emi said in a whisper, but with a reassuring smile on her face that seemed to put Rumi slightly at ease. Izuku still sees his, not really official, wife's frown lessen a bit, yet still worries, then he gets an idea. Wait, what about Nizu? He's coming today with Mr. Izawa, right? Perhaps he could help somehow, especially when we both know he hates the commission just as much as we do. Izuku said, causing Rumi to smile at her broccoli genius of a mate. But Emi's heart simultaneously ached and swelled with happiness at the fact that Izuku nearly called her husband dad. But the fact that he stopped himself was disappointing. However, she guessed it was only natural since he had never met him and had only heard stories about him from her. So maybe she was just jumping the gun a bit and just needed to be a little more patient. Her thoughts were cut off by the door to the lounge opening. A hobo wearing a white scarf and yellow goggles around his neck walked in with some type of animal in a suit on his shoulders. Am I a dog? Am I a bear? Am I a mouse? Who cares, because I'm the principal of UA. Nizu says in a chipper tone that only makes Izawa groan in annoyance. Smiling at her husband, Emi waved him over so she could hug him. She would have stood up and hugged him if her legs weren't atrophied. Seeing her wave him over, he just smiled at her tiredly as he let down Nizu, and he went over to hug his wife. He then pulled up a chair for the principal and himself and then sat down next to her. They sat there for a good minute in comfortable silence before Nizu spoke up. Although I do not want to interrupt your reunion, I believe we need to talk. Izawa, you might want to use the device that you got from Power Loader that you brought with you. Especially since I suspect your wife was the one who asked for you to bring it. Nizu said, causing Izawa to grumble as he pulled out a small device and placed it on a table before activating it. Once it was active, Nizu spoke up again. Now it is an honor to meet you, young Izuku. I heard from the underground community affected by the SAO incident that your analysis skill, tactics, as well as your group's information gathering skills, were the biggest reasons why the majority of the front lines were so successful. I admit hearing of your deeds and your skills has got my attention. Nizu said in a chipper tone. Although I would like nothing more than to converse with you on that topic, we have more pressing matters to attend to. Izuku said seriously, causing Nizu to smile while sipping his tea, which seemed to just appear out of nowhere. Ah, yes, you must be talking about the situation with Kana Tsutsum, also known as the Pro Hero Lady Nagant. The whole underground community is running interference for her. I am assuming that she wants to defect from HPSC, and you need my help. Nizu said, smiling as he sipped his tea, and when Izuku nodded, Nizu spoke up again. Well, we do have an opening for a heroics teacher next year. If she accepts it, it will be a lot easier to keep the HPSC off her back. After this meeting, I'll go down and offer it to her and have her moved into recovery girls' care. Nizu said, smiling. Thank you, sir, now that's off my chest. I think we should move on to the next topic. But first, Mom, do you think we can trust Nizu with this? Izuku said, making Nizu raise an eyebrow, but he said nothing. I don't know, to be honest, but he's got the resources and the brains to help us out. Not to mention he probably knows more about him than we do. Emi says, shrugging. Thinking it over a bit, Izuku decided that it would probably be better for him to be in the loop on this. So he explained the meeting they had with Akihiko Kayaba and what he told them. Great, a psychopath made and gave an untested quirk to my adopted son and his team to fight the boogeyman of the underworld. Great, just fucking great. Sigh, at least tell me that you have the common sense to not test it when I was not here. Oh, don't worry, Sho, we had the common sense not to test it until you were here. But since you're here, we should do it right now. Emi said, smiling. With a minor protest from Izawa, they agreed that Izuku should try it first. With a practiced, swift downstroke of his hand, the SAO menu appeared. Noticing that Nizu and Izawa could not see it, they guessed that only people with the quirk could see it. As the others also accessed their menus, the three started scrolling through them. The first thing they noticed was that when they entered the menu, the HUD immediately appeared, and the only way for it to disappear was to turn it off in settings. All three of them decided to leave it on, especially when they were already used to it being there. The second thing that they noticed was that they were set back to level 1. But they had all their previous skills that they had while in the game, including their unique skills. But all of them were set back to the beginning, which meant that they needed to level them up all over again. The third thing they found out was that they also had all the items that they had in their inventory and equipment slots, which were now neatly placed in their inventory. The fourth thing they noticed was their friend list, which had everybody in their party already added to it. They also figured out that they could send messages to each other and add them to the party just like in SAO. The party feature also operated exactly like SAO with a built-in voice chat. The fifth thing they found out was the store that replaced the logout button. Searching through it, they found every item that was in Sword Art Online, but most of it was level locked. There were also things called floor keys and dungeon keys. The majority of those were also level locked, but there were two that weren't. Checking out the description, he found out one of them was marked as a tutorial, which explained the mechanics of the dungeons and floor keys, as well as introducing them to how the game operated. It reminded Izuku of the beta tutorial that was removed from the game when it launched. The other key was marked as the Floor 1 dungeon key. The description didn't say much about that key. He suggests that the dungeon keys and floor keys were how they were supposed to level up. Everybody else agreed with that assessment. After the three invited each other to their party, including sending an invite to Kana and Melissa, who hadn't accepted yet. It was probably because they hadn't accessed their menus yet, so he wasn't really concerned, which reminded Izuku that he needed to get in contact with Melissa as soon as possible. After asking Nizu if he could help him contact Melissa, Nizu quickly agreed. He even agreed to arrange a flight to Island for his group after their physical therapy was over. On that note, Nizu also started to contact doctors whom he trusted to start their physical therapy, which was arranged for them to start later this week. He also arranged for the three to be moved to the same room, which they were grateful for. It was a day later when Detective Tsukachi came back with more questions as well as eye bags. And the only thought that went through Izuku's mind was, God, he's starting to look like my dad.
Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!